Despite heavy National Guard presence downtown and the Memphis Safe Task Force agents all throughout the city, it has been a violent couple of weeks. On March 6th, a kid accidentally killed a woman in Hickory Hill after getting a hold of a gun. And we've been told by people who knew the family that the woman was the child's mother. But the relation hasn't been confirmed by police. Now, on March 13th, a 14-year-old boy was shot in South Memphis on Kerr Avenue and later died at the hospital. On March 18th, a child walking home from a store with his friends on Raleigh Millington was confronted with a person when they started shooting at them and they hit the child. There were two downtown shootings the weekend before Trump's visit. On March 20th at around 11:15 a.m. near B.B. King Boulevard and Peabody Place, a boy was shot and taken to the hospital. Two suspects were detained. One of the suspects was a minor. 30 minutes later, around Rufus Thomas and Beale Alley, a woman was shot in the leg. Two people were charged for reckless endangerment. And then lastly, the day after Trump's visit, on Tuesday around 3:30 in the afternoon at Tom Lee Park, a 17-year-old girl was shot, where MPD's update last night says she is in critical condition as we speak. They are looking for 5 people who were seen armed with guns leaving the area. So, Tawan, I'll have you open this one up here as a former Memphis City Council chair. Just the violence, particularly downtown, when National Guard troops are very visible. I've been on Beale Street and seen them myself. You know, what do you have to say just about violence happening even with the task force in town?
I don't think you can underestimate when a violent act will occur. It can occur at any time. Now, that's just a given. But I think we have to look deeper at what we're doing as a community as a whole. We market ourselves as a warehouse logistics center, and there's nothing wrong with those jobs. But sometimes those jobs, for some parents, will take them away from home at night. And that's just the truth of it. Maybe it's only about 5 or 10% or 15% of the parents who don't have a hold of their children, but that 10% or 15% can cause you great havoc. And we have to look, if we keep marketing ourselves as a cheap labor town with no benefits, we are going to force people to work 2 and 3 jobs and not be parents, number one. And then we have a drug problem in Memphis, and we have a teen sex problem with a high rate of STDs in this town. So you can see an idle mind leads to trouble. And so we have a community problem with that. And until we really address parenting, I'm not leaving that out, drugs, glorifying guns, and we do that by loosening laws to make guns more prevalent and violence. Children act upon what they see. And we need to take a hold of what we're showing them. And that does not excuse their behavior, because I hope they get every last one of them, and I hope they get the time they deserve, as well as mental health counseling.
Otis, this kind of reminds me of some of the coverage we had. We had various people in here on Monday, on both Republicans and Democrats. And there was that conversation around poverty being a root problem of crime. And it seems like, you know, Republicans want to go more of the route of heavy on enforcement, whereas I specifically know Representative Justin J. Pearson really talks about how we need resources, and money that's spent on the task force should be spent on resources to help our young people or help kind of eradicate poverty. So, you know, when we look at this and some of the points you made, Tawan, you know, does this kind of shed more light on the fact that poverty here, or single parent households, or, you know, parents having to work and their kids left at home, shows a bigger issue than just enforcement on crime?
Absolutely it does. And honestly, Tawan nailed it here with all of the factors that contribute to this problem, and it's a very real problem. But it's an economic problem. It's an educational problem. It is a parenting problem.
It's a parenting problem.
And sometimes you have to criticize the parents. They're just not doing what they're supposed to do. But Tawan hit the nail on the head here when most of our economy is based on this warehouse production kind of jobs where people have to work all hours of the night. You have parents out there not making a whole lot of money, but they're doing what they can to try to keep a household going, and they're not paying attention to that 14, 15, 16-year-old. There's no reason for a 14-year-old to be on Beale Street at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. That's ridiculous. But there are a lot of factors that go into that, and it's unfortunate that we have political leaders who just want to lock up and throw away the key and not deal with those kind of issues that Tawan so eloquently focused on here, because that's part of the problem as well.
And Catherine, the downtown violence, aside from the Tom Lee Park one, was on the weekend before Trump came here. Are you at all surprised that that didn't seem to be brought up at all at the roundtable? It was brought up in Mary Young's, press conference.
I would never have expected it to be brought up at the roundtable at all. That wasn't in the script. That wasn't what the roundtable seems to be all about. I will say one thing that I thought should have been brought up was we had several Republican legislators on that roundtable, and Memphians have asked many times, including our law enforcement, to have stricter gun laws. And what struck me from that entire list of tragic incidents that you just described was they were all gun crimes. And a crime can obviously occur without a gun. When you have a gun in the mix, it greatly amplifies the severity and the risk of death. And Cameron Sexton has been asked for stricter gun crime law, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And he was at that roundtable. Go ahead,
One
last
very
point.
quick point here, and it shouldn't be lost. These incidents that we talked about here have occurred in very public places.
That's true.
We're talking about Beale Street, which is our #1 tourist area.
Tom Lee Park.
We're talking about Tom Lee Park that just got spruced up a couple of years ago, and people are touting it as the front door to Memphis. And so it does put an extra burden on the entire city and the leaders of the city when we have kids out there who obviously they're not paying attention to a task force or anything like that. They just care about being slighted or whatever, and they're committing this violence in very public places where you're making people afraid to go to. That shouldn't be lost either, but this gun issue is one that they are never going to deal with, even though it is a direct cause of some of the problem.
And I once was a social worker for Tennessee Department of Human Services in my early years. And to me, a child who is constantly in delinquency, that should be a trigger to the Department of Children's Services to make home visits to families to find out what's going on in the home.
Yeah.
Good point.
And I don't think that's occurring, and that's a state responsibility to make sure that children are not neglected nor abused. And we pounce on abuse, but we overlook neglect.
That's right.
All right, thank you for that, Tawan. It was a good point to end on. When we come back, we will talk about some legislative issues moving through the state legislature. We'll be right back.